Welcome to Tasty Treats 2020. We're doing the house sampler blocks. We're having a lot of fun. This is a picture here of all 20 blocks that we're doing. So we're doing a little tutorial on each block each day for 20 days. And there's a pattern available to purchase on my website on GourmetQuilter.com. So you can go over there and have a look at some more information if you're interested. So we're up to block 8 this time. So this is the block we're going to be making. We're putting surrounds around the blocks that are going to be at the walls of our houses, and then we'll be doing some roofs later on. So we've already done 7 blocks here, and today we're on to block 8. So if you have the pattern, it's going to look something like this. Well, hopefully a lot like that. So I've gone ahead, I've cut out all my patches for the block this time. Again, we're not doing any new techniques particularly. It's all a matter of how you rearrange the colours and do things like that. So much fun, and who knew that you could do so many things with squares and triangles? But apparently you can do lots of things. So we need to do some half square triangles again, because this one looks a little bit like a cotton reel. If you can see that, we've got this sort of dark bit here which could be the old-fashioned wooden cotton reel, and we've got a colour here that could be the thread on the cotton reel, slightly you know, stylized, but it can look a little bit like that. So we need to make those angles on the cotton reel. So I've gone ahead on my background squares. I've marked, just with my pencil, a diagonal line right from point to point, and I've marked a second line ½ an inch away so we can stitch both lines, cut between the lines, and use the smaller half, not really a half anymore, is it? The smaller part for another delicious project. We only need the larger side of it. So I'm going to go ahead, because I've marked my background. I've got to do 4 of these. Because I've already marked them, I can go ahead and place them together with the dark colour here, and stitch right along that diagonal line, and stitch right along the second shorter diagonal parallel line, and then I can cut between them, and we can start rearranging it into the shapes or the positions that we want to make that particular block. So I'll go ahead and get these bits ready to do that with. I'll start sewing them, and you can chain piece them, you can feed them through one after the other for the first line, and then the same thing back through again for the second line of stitching. So I'm just pressing my little half square triangles here, ready to lay the block out. So now we've got to get this one right, because if it's going to look a little bit like a cotton reel, we don't want it looking like some other misshapen something. So we've got one of those, then we've got one of those, and then we've got another one of those. So that's kind of like the top part, and in the middle we've got the colour and some background squares, and then here we've got to go around the other way and make the other end. So I think that's looking pretty good. Again, we've got a little 9-patch type of block. We can split them into 3 little rows of squares and sew the 3 rows together into rows, and then sew those rows together into one block. So I'll go ahead and start sewing my little block patches together, and then we're going to have to put the framework for the walls of the houses on as well. So just a little bit still to do. Sewing the rows of the little squares together. Just remember when you're pressing to press your seams so that they alternate where they meet, so that you can have that nice little nestled point. That helps hugely when you're sewing things together, and to keep the points together as well. Worth pressing everything as you go. It makes everything just sort of sit nicely and evenly, so that everything is just where you want it to be. So now I'm just going to press those 3 seams of joining the 3 little rows together to one side. You could choose to press, in fact no, I'm going to change my mind, because we've got quite a little bit of bulk where the corners come in, and this other one here will take that. I'm just going to press both of those in towards the centre so that they just sit flatter. When there's a bit of bulk at, where the seams meet and things, sometimes it wants to go a certain way, and if you can do it that way, it's often better to let it go that way. It sits more comfortably. So there's our block so far. Now we've got to put our walls of our houses around with these frames around the blocks. So we've got the two sides and we've got the top and bottom piece. So I'm just going to go ahead now and stitch those on, and then we'll have our block done. So it's getting there, it's doing well. I'm just sewing the last of the framework on now, and I'll press my block again. I guess we like to think of quilting and patchwork as sewing, but a lot of it's ironing as well. But it's worth doing all the ironing. It always seems a little bit tedious, or often can seem that way, but it's definitely worth doing it every step of the way because everything just sits so much better for you. So I've gone ahead and done all that now. That block is finished. It's set into its house walls, so I'm pretty pleased with that. It looks a whole lot like the other one. And so that's that was block 8 that we've done out of our 20 blocks for the tasty treats. And so we'll see you again, thank you, for block 9.